Welcome to Good Morning Anambra Breakfast TV show on ABS TV.
Bia Kaido Kwa.
We serve it sizzling hot.
Health and lifestyle. Security. Topical issues.
National development.
Entertainment and more.
Welcome to the flagship show where we arm you with the right tools for the day.
Keeping you abreast with happenings and information within and beyond the state.
There are so many things to gain staying tuned to Good Morning Anambra on ABS TV.
Good Morning Anambra, live on ABS television, weekdays 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
All right, you're welcome back to the show. It's still Good Morning Anambra right here on ABS TV. And we have with us in the studio this morning, again, Uzo Maxim Uzato is a member Oka Literary Society. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We also have Odili Ujubongo. He is also a member of Oka Literary Society. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, what we'll be looking at this morning is the Alexander Madiebo Colloquium. Wow, that's what we'll be looking at this morning. Let's start with you, Uzo Maxim. Now, let's talk about this colloquium. What's it all about? Because I know once when I saw the topic, I was like, what is it all about? I know once I mentioned it, people listening to us or viewing us this morning want to know what the colloquium of the Alexander Madiebo is all about.
The truth of the matter is that Alexander Madiebo, General Alexander Madiebo, is a colossus. So when the Iroko tree falls, you see the birds scattering all over the place. And like when a great man like Alexander Madiebo dies, it's like a great library burning down. You can see he wrote a book. This was a soldier when soldiers were soldiers. He attended government college, Umuahia, when the likes of Chino Achebe, Christopher Okibo, who incidentally died in the war, and Chukwuemeka and the rest of them, they all attended there. And then he joined the Nigerian military, way before even independence, in 1954. He was part of the contingent that went to the Congo on peacekeeping and all that, and ended like as the general of the Biafran army. He coordinated all these things. And in our society here, we should pay homage to the makers of our history. A man like that cannot die and then you put him inside the earth and people will come and say that donating cows and everything. He is beyond that. That's why we are talking about a colloquium. Because what we have to discuss about Alexander Madiebo can make up 300 books. The mere fact, the way he escaped from the north when the Igbo pogrom started, I was telling my brother and friend Odili Ujubongo that alone can be fiction and put in Nollywood for people to watch for eternally. The bravery, the courage, the ideas, and all his military training had to go into the fact that he needed to get out of this madness that was visited on the Igbo people. And he committed himself to the cause of the Igbo throughout his long life. He died at 90. And he left us with the book, The Nigerian Revolution, and in fact, there's a new edition of the book out before he died.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay, now, to that question, is the concept of Biafra in his time, is it the same thing to what we have now?
Well, thank you very much. I think the concept of Biafra of Madiebo is akin to what he talked about, those, with whom he went to school, people like Christopher Kibo, people like Chino Achebe. These were excellent minds. These are people who were respected in their different professions in their own time, who faced the challenge of what Ndibo were facing, as Nigerians during the pogrom, and they had to respond when Ojukwu called them, to battle as Biafrans. These are intellectuals, the HROs, the DI1 guys. They all stood back and used their intellect to back the Biafran cause. The question we are asking now is that the Biafra that they were fighting for, the Biafra that they promised, in my opinion, was purely a purist, people-oriented, and highly conscionable cause that they had the whole world back them. It wasn't a Biafra that was kidnapping its own citizens. It wasn't a snake that was eating itself. It wasn't a Biafran that was forcing Madiebo to go and have their weddings, their traditional marriages of their children in Lagos. It wasn't the Biafra that was bringing tears in the hearts of Ndibai. It was a Biafra that was working for the progress of our people. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Of course, you have. You kind of triggered an emotion in me, but then let's just leave it there. Now let's talk about the colloquium. It's what is going to happen, what people are going to expect. Because for one, me, I want to be there. So I know there are some expectations. So just give us a tip of the iceberg, what people we expect when they come there.
We talked about fine minds. There are still fine minds in our society. So we're going to bring all of them together to talk about what really Biafra should stand for. Because what we're saying is that Biafra led the world at that time. We could produce fuel by ourselves. We could do all the mechanical whatever they're doing now. Back then, 1967 to 70. But after the war, everything frittered away because the government at the federal level never wanted any kind of progress and all that. So having a colloquium now is like going back through the trigger of the death of Madiebo to see what was possible, what we have missed, and what is still possible, because we still have our young minds who can do all these things. Because of the computer and all that, you see all these are Igbo boys. But because of lack of opportunities here, tomorrow they tell you they're in the United States of America or anywhere, doing great things, manufacturing things. So it's about this colloquium is for them now to have a sense of belonging, that things can be possible here, that we still have our minds. So let's rub minds together and make sure the concept of the real Biafra, as Odili Jubonga told you, as opposed to all this ransom taking, kidnapping, and even beheading people. That's not what we should be.
Oh, that real concept, can it actually be achieved once again? Because I don't know, should I say that things have gone bad, so bad. Now, you talked about kidnapping, you talked about maiming, and then you see unknown gunmen kidnapping people. I actually watched a video this morning before I came for the show, and I saw where they were kidnapping somebody, and people were just passing by, and nothing happened. I mean, can we go back to actually the real concept of Biafra?
You remember I started with the word purist. I said conscionable, and I said people-oriented. If you use this three tripod of reasoning, to interrogate what is happening today, you realize that one, it is not conscionable. There's no conscience. A man with conscience cannot. We don't kill human beings. We don't involve people we don't kidnap. We don't take ransom. These are not the concept. That was not what Ojukwu stood for. That was not what Ojukwu died for. That was not what people like Madiebo talked about. Yes, it is possible. It is possible if the narrative is changed. If the conversation, can come back to the table, if we can continue, to tell ourselves that yes, because some of these people, the narrative they hear is probably what happened in other parts of the country. Mm-hmm. They look at videos of what happened in what Akeda people do. videos of foreign cultures, then they now want to domesticate them, and make them look as though they are part of us. They're not part of us. That's not part of what we do. We're a very conscionable people. Ndị be anyị tụrụ elu sị na ife metụta imi o metụtago anya, izuka mma na nwanne dị, nju n'okpuru nkiriki ya, because na nwanne is very, very important in our own culture. That's our narrative. Whatever is happening is a foreign narrative. So if we go back to the way we do things as Ndi Igbo, this will just die a natural death. Thank you.
All right, let's come back to you. Let's talk about the Orca Literary Society. Let's talk about this body. I know what you people do, but so many people that are listening, watching us this body, want to know what this organization is all about.
You know that Orca is a land of culture.
Okay.
When we talk about like blacksmithing or something like that, where people create the best things you can think of. And now we're talking about literature. If you're talking about literature, for instance, Orca is the homestead of Kenneth Dike, Professor Kenneth Dike.
That's correct.
The first principal and VC of University College Ibadan. And you come in here, you have all these writers gathered in Orca now at this time. Odili will tell you how we go on a pilgrimage to Joto for the venerated poet Christopher Okigbo, who died fighting for Biafra. We will just go there, read our poems, go to the Moda Idoto River to pay all and get all the inspiration daring. Then we have all the writers in all the genres, poetry, fiction, playwriting, and all that. We have a communion. You come in and you bring in whatever little you have. Because it's when like writers congregate that you can share all these lofty ideas. Because that's what made our father, Chinua Achebe, to start the Association of Nigerian Authors. So these things are things coming from the Oriental end. That's this our eastern part. But most of the time, people will tell you that the writing is happening on the other side, which is a lie. There is no time you enter into in Anambra State, you won't see a prominent writer. There is no town I can do a bet with everybody. So, and Orca being the capital city of Anambra State is the hub of bringing all these writers, all these talents together. Thank you.
So how do you help to groom the young talents, young writers? I'm still asking you, yes, the young writers amongst all, because sometimes when I see some of the books out there in the market, when you read through them, you understand that some people actually need mentors. They actually need to be tutored before they can go out there and put out a book for people to read.
So that's the essence of having a society. You bring in these your works.
Okay.
They are read, they are criticized, they are critiqued. And if you want to like veer off and go and do it on your own, whatever you get, so most of the ones you see that are wrongly done are people who never really participated in the society's things. Because if you are there are editors, there are proofreaders, there are all sorts of, because you have all kinds of segments in the big book production industry. Not talk of the original talent. Like if your poem is not good and you go and put it out, of course, eventually you bear the consequences. So we have all that. So this is about the idea about mentorship. That's why it is here. So for instance, if I have my book, I know that if I give it to Odili, he will give me his candid view. He won't do what we call a beggy criticism in Lagos. There's a place under the tree at National Theatre. If you buy a beer, if you buy a beer to a person, he will tell you, I've written the greatest book on earth. That not even Achebe and Shoyinka can try it because we just bought him a beer under the tree. So we call it a big criticism. But we don't do it here. Here is a conscious effort to groom talent and make sure that we have people who will succeed our 4 beers.
So if any writer wants to be part of this organization, you just need to come and register. Okay. All right, let's tell us about the journey to Ojoto. He said you are going to tell us. So I'm curious.
Well, Idoto is a very passionate poem. It's about, I think, 16 lines. 16 lines of simple, everyday English, that Christopher Okigbo crafted, you know, and it's the book that produced Idoto, Heaven's Gate, is as tiny as this. But I can assure you that if you go to Google and type Okibo, Okibo, you know, there's a whole lot of Okibos, but the one that give you the highest hit is Christopher Okibo. He died at the war front at the age of 32, you know, during the Biafran War. Okibo. So when James Eze and I, we said, okay, let's go to this, see if Idoto really exists. So both of us we just went on a journey. I was working with Brand Aristotle then he was in government. So we went there, and when we got there, we touched the water that existed. You know, we drank from it. So that's actually an Idoto. So what we did was we came back to Oka and told ourselves, look, this experience we had today, let's go share it with the rest of the writing world. And it was like a bomb. Everybody from all over the world, you know, writers. In fact, if you're a poet in Nigeria and you've not been invited to Idoto, it is as if you've not read. But Maxim, we call him the god of poetry. He's read at Idoto. He's one of he's an alumni. He's rather an alumnus of Idoto. You know? Yeah. So right now, but the beauty of it is not even all that. James Eze, whose book of poetry was released last year, was shortlisted or longlisted on the Nigerian Prize for Literature, you know. And last year he read in Idoto, you know, as an alumnus. So it's a place where we produced about three winners of Nigerian Prize for Literature in poetry are all alumni of Return to Idoto. So it's not just an art thing, it's tourism, you know, it's history, it's making the people giving back to Ndi Ojoto, you know, letting them know that giving birth to a son like Christopher Kibo, you know, is a gift to the world. So the world will always come to Ojoto to say thank you, you know, for giving us someone like
I'm curious though, I'm curious. Like as a poet, like what gives you inspiration? What inspires you to write, you know?
Poetry is life. We say if you're not a poet, you're already finished. Because no matter whatever you have, you feel you have money or whatever. The real thing is the spiritual satisfaction, and the thing comes from deep down, and that's poetry. For instance, he was talking about the poets or the alumni who had been there and all that. Somebody like Ike Ogwoke, who sadly died, was there. He was ill, but he took himself to the place. He was literally being taken from hospital to hotel room to the place and all that. So poetry is the basis of life. Like when God said, let there be light, and there was light. What can be more poetic than that? So we take it from there and do our own creations and all that. And once you are inspired to write poetry, you forget your mother and father and follow the path of poetry. You can apologize later. Like what we're saying about Okibo now. When Okibo was doing all these things, I don't think anybody bothered, you understand? They were big men, you know. But now, anybody who talks about Ojoto, white men, go to America, any university with the name of Okibo, you can become a professor. That you can write something original about Christopher Okibo. You're employed.
We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. You're connected. Tell us your name and your location. Okay, maybe you need to change your location and call us back. Remember, we're talking about Alexander Madiebo Colloquium. Okay, this colloquium that you've organized for Alexander, the great Alexander, let me put it that way, the great Alexander. Do you normally do such when someone from the literary society also, you know, dies?
It's not, this is the first that we are doing.
Okay.
This is the first we are doing because of the because of the subject matter, he wrote about is germane, and if you see what the governor is currently doing, it looks as though there's no philosophy behind, the action that he's carrying out. It's not just to secure us, it's to remind us who we are. So the colloquium is to also, an intellectual way of telling our people that what the governor is doing is not wrong. He is helping us, recover ourselves, recover our peace, so that we'll be able to develop. How can we be having a banku, in Lagos? How can we be doing things that we normally would have done in our homeland outside? It's because we can't find security. But if we find the security and we don't correct the mindset, it will repeat itself again. So that's what the colloquium is out to do, is to kind of work on the mindset, of our people.
All right. Quickly, let's talk about the day the colloquium is happening and where it's going to take place.
It's happening today.
Today?
Yeah, it's up by 4 p.m. today.
Okay.
At
where?
Havila Suites. Havila Suites is on Colloquium Street,
Okay, so who are we expecting to be there? Me, I'm coming. So who are we expecting to be there to?
Well, because it's been organized by the Oka Literary Society, we have a lot of members, who are very popular here. Maxim Ozato, who we call the poet, and Alosim Bem, he'll be there. James Eze, the long-listed writer, will be there. Then we'll have members of the Madiebo family. We've invited them to come, read from their father's work, We've invited also, this is going to be anchored by mainly intellectuals. And the person that will be at the center of it is Professor Chike, Okoye, who was the former, I think he was the former of the university, So yeah, so he's the professor of English and literature, in Anambra University.
Okay, he's going to be anchored by him.
It's going to be anchored by him, and then a couple of his colleagues, and then we, the writers, will be there. There'll be young writers who have opportunity to read their war poems. Their Biafran war poems on that occasion. So if you have a Biafran war poem, we'll give you 5 minutes to read your poem there, And then, of course, allow people to ventilate, and then of course, Professor Chumude, who is currently the Commissioner for Education. She's a member of the society. She'll be there also, and a couple of other people,
Okay, we have a program of event.
And the Ministry of Information will be there too. So the Commissioner for Information, Paul Wosu, who is behind most of the things we are doing, he will be there too.
Okay, they actually showcase the program of event on the screen. That's it there. Talking about number 1 is recognition, welcome, remarks, and introducing the colloquium by the prefect Oka Literary Society, James Ngueze, and then so many other things till we get to vote of thanks and departure. Okay, well, on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to both of you for coming here to enlighten us more and why we need to be there tonight, right? Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. All right? And I know you have one word or two to give to the Anambra before we leave.
Well, the Anambra, we're expecting you to be there so that you can know what Elizabeth Madiebo means to all of us. And to the idea of Biafra, even in terms of Nigeria, you can understand a man who straddled all day and lived a really decent life.
Okay. And from you?
Well, like he said, the only thing I would tell our people is that we still have models. We still have people to look up to. General Alexander Madiebo, as a little boy, when I read his book, that was one of the books that inspired me into writing. And I keep saying there are still models that will look. So come today, come and listen to writers, listen to poets, and then you enjoy yourself.
Well, I want to say thank you to you, Uzo Maxim Uzat, member of Oka Literary Society. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Thank you, Chidema.
And also to you, Odele Ujubongo. He's also a member of the Awka Literary Society. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chidima.
Well, that's it on the show this morning. Thank you so much for being part of it. My name is Chidima Orangwa. See you again tomorrow.